Hello everyone, this is Advantikananda and his online spiritual academy, which I call Advaita Atma Yoga Academy. Today I would like to speak about being and doing and experiencing as well. Mostly being and doing, and experiencing is related with both. To both. Experiencing is related to both. We experience our beingness, our essential nature, which reflects on the mind, onto the mind as the sense I am or I exist, and we experience sensory impressions and psychological expressions. So being and doing. What does it mean? Being. Being means to be consciously what we really are. To be consciously ourself. What is ourself? It's not the body. It's not the ego. It's not the mind. I mean, thoughts, emotions, impulses, desires, imagination, etc. We are not the body or energetic sensations, the vital energy. We are not the mind. We are not the ego, the sense of I-ness, which is mostly related to the physical body and psychological expressions. Be consciously what I am. It is what we call being. Be consciously aware of my beingness, the eternal light of consciousness, being. But since due to ignorance, we confuse ourselves, we take ourselves to be the body. So we think that we are a body-mind entity. So when we feel that I am, we relate this I amness with the body. In reality, we are not even I amness. So we could say that there is I amness without identifying it with the body, and there is I amness without identifying it with the body. Even this I amness without identification with the body, we are not. Our essential nature is pure consciousness, the light of pure consciousness, which is experienced as an empty space, a silent empty space, full of peace, plenitude, and beauty and freedom. Indescribable, beyond description. Even these words I say, peace, freedom, cannot describe it. In reality, everyone uses the words according to the knowledge and experience that everyone has. And so in reality, when we communicate these words, we don't speak about the same thing or exactly the same thing. For example, even we can speak about, for example, the sea. So depending on where we have been born, we can have an image of the sea. So I'm Greek, and so I had the opportunity to have many experiences related to sea, various different seas, we could say. Because Greece is one of the countries with that have more than 15,000 kilometers of shores. is incredible. So I had the opportunity to experience the sea in islands, in places which was in the sea with different natures. So the sea in my mind has created a very specific image. So when I say sea, I'm referring to the sea I have experienced in Greece, mostly. Although generally sea is the same everywhere, but there are some differences. And so depending on our experiences, when we say sea, the sea image is a little bit different. And this, it becomes more how to say, when we speak about abstract words, what is love, what is peace, what is calmness of the mind, it's very subjective. So okay, we speak about the same thing, but in fact we have a different idea or concept in our minds. So be careful, because we can be confused by the words. So this sense I am, we are not. Although this is a reflection of the of our essential nature on the mind. So it is partly real and partly unreal. And especially when we identify this sense of I am with the body, it's totally unreal, because this I am is not the body. If we identify this sense I am with the silence within, it is correct. But however, the sense of I, it is illusory, because it is it has to do with the mind, although the sattvic part of the mind. The real is consciousness, the light, the silent space of consciousness. So being, we may have this when, and of course depends on our capacity to be conscious of our beingness. It's not so easy as modern teachers say. It's very easy to be aware of this I amness. This is very easy. To be aware of the inner silence deeply, we can also be easily aware of the inner silence. But it's not so easy to be to have a clear and deep experience. That implies that our attention and mind have been withdrawn from any other experience, and we are totally absorbed. Our mind and attention is absorbed in this inner silent space of consciousness. So we experience our beingness, our essential being, totally. And this is not so easy. However, we can experience easily this I amness, and to some degree, depending on our capacity and depending on every moment, each moment is different. So if our mind is calm and steady, we are in a position to experience this inner silence more easily and more deeply. So depending on the situation, everyone can experience this inner silence, but the difference is how deeply and how clearly and how steadily we can remain in this experience. Of course, this experience is not it's nothing, has nothing to do with the experience of sensory objects. It's a very different experience, because the object and the subject has become one. It is that our essential nature experiences itself. but words are limited, so I say we experience ourselves. Of course, because of the ego, it appears that we as the body me ego, the body me I, experiences this inner silence. So there is duality. Of course there is duality. Modern teachers do not speak clearly about this. They take for granted that if you become aware of this inner silence, it is the silence that experiences itself, which is quite correct. But the point is that the ego is there as well. So, although in reality it is the silence space of consciousness experiencing itself, because of this presence of the I-ness, we experience as if we were us, the ego, that experience the inner silence. Of course, this is an illusion, but from the point of view of our perspective, it is what we experience. So being, it is being aware consciously what we are, which means also being consciously aware of this inner silent space of consciousness. And while in reality this consciousness, in this case, this consciousness experiences itself, because the presence of this ego, I element or ego element, our experience is that we, as a body, me, ego, I, experience the inner silence, as if the inner silence were something different from us. Because this sense of ego identifies us, makes us identify with the physical body. So I am this body-mind entity, which by focusing inwards, I experience this inner silence. This is our experience. So do not confuse your experience with reality. And I repeat it, it is very important to have a clear understanding. To have a clear understanding. Although it is consciousness that experiences itself, however, due to the presence of this element we call ego, this highness, in our experience appears that we, as this body, mind, me, experience this inner silence. So being means I experience consciously my essential nature. What is this essential nature? According to the great teachings of India, it is Satchitananda, existence absolute, consciousness absolute, bliss absolute. Bliss means also freedom, peace, plenitude, all together as an homogeneous experience. So it is existence absolute. That means something that exists in eternity, without beginning and without an end. Eternal, immortal, and independent from anything else. So that means that this existence does not depend on, it is uncaused. Nothing has created this existence. It's self-created, and doesn't need any other element outside of it to exist by itself. And it is also consciousness, because it has this capacity in nature. It is the nature of this existence to consciously experience itself. And this existence consciousness is also bliss. It's something which is blissful, whole, full, without any. Nothing is missing from this. That's why when our mind gets in touch with this inner silence, we feel complete. We don't need anything. And that's why desire has been developed in us, because by losing conscious contact with our being, we feel this sense of lack, and because of ignorance, because we ignore that the happiness is innate to us, is the nature of our divine essence, we look for happiness through the sensory pleasures, and this is the cause, the root cause of suffering. Seeking fulfillment and happiness, completeness, fullness in the external world. And this is impossible because sensory impressions, reality, what we experience are sensory impressions, have not all these things. Has only some quality. They have some qualities, pleasant and unpleasant qualities, and other qualities as well. They are warm, they are cold, they are high, they are small, they are big, they have colors, smells, but they do not have happiness and peace and bliss and plenitude. But because of the delusion of our mind and ignorance in general, we continuously seek this fulfillment and happiness to the external world, and because of it has been developed as attachment. Attachment is something addiction. We are addictive. In reality, what we call attachment is also addiction to the external reality and sensory experiences. We are addicted to sense pleasures, and that's why we suffer. And not only this, have been developed in us all these kinds of tendencies in the form of fear, of anger, of pride, of all this hatred, jealousy and greed. All these tendencies are very dense and low frequency vibrations, energy of low frequency vibration that create pain in us. Anytime there is an expression, manifestation, and this happens continuously, moment to moment. Anytime any of these tendencies express itself in us, we experience some kind of misery, pain, suffering. Even the subtlest expression of a tendency, it is a suffering. But we are so used to experiencing this that does not appear in our understanding and as suffering. We experience it. We are so used to live in low vibration that we have been used to it. So it appears as something normal, and only when this expression reaches some degree, becomes quite strong, then we experience it as suffering. But the more our mind becomes pure, the purer our mind becomes, the more we perceive this expression as suffering. But at the same time, we are detached of it. Of course, this happens after a lot of years of practice. It's not something we get by like a lottery. We have to work to achieve this state of pure mind and to weaken the egoistic tendencies to a great extent, so that when they express themselves in our psyche, in our mind, we don't lose ourselves, we don't identify with them, and that means we maintain a psychological distance. That means also that we are quite deeply connected with the inner silence, and we experience them as something different or something intrusive to our psyche. and we are not, this expression has not the power to make us lose ourselves in them, in this expression, and be agitated and create more suffering. We are in a state that we can manage, we can deal with this and make it subside and return to the state of deep connection with the peace within. So this is being. Being means being aware, consciously aware of my bigness, of this inner silent space of consciousness, which is also peace and bliss and plenitude and freedom. That means I live moment to moment in freedom, in peace and wholeness. This is being. Being is being consciously what I really am. Doing is to take an action, to do something. And as the teachers say, we do something with the 5 organs of action. Do you know which are these 5 organs of action? And also with mind. Although the 5 organs of action is the mouth, we speak. The speaking is doing. I do speaking. Walking, I do something. Walking, I do something with the feet, using my legs. The third is my head. I do something using my head. In general, using the body, but more specifically using my hands, using my legs, my feet, legs, using the mouth. Eating also is a doing. Eating, speaking. Singing is doing. 3. The 4th doing using the body is having sex, using my genitals, our genitals. So having sex is an action, and this also is experiencing. Everything we do is an experience as well. Walking is an action, but it's an experience as well. We experience ourselves to walk. We experience ourselves as the body. Although we are the consciousness which is actionless, however, we as body, we are not the body. It's an expression of the consciousness we are. We walk, we do something. And we experience it through the senses. I feel the body is walking. This is an experiencing. And this walking can provoke in us some sensations. We experience also the sensations. Normally, walking in a park or in nature, or in general, walking is very pleasant. Okay, depending on our state, our capacity. So if we are not trained, then it becomes a little bit how to say, unpleasant to walk, because we don't exercise our body frequently. It has not the capacity to walk, so we can enjoy for a while, and then it becomes a little bit, we are tired easily, and we don't enjoy it. So normally if we exercise our body, not too much, but okay, a little bit every day and walk every day, so we enjoy walking. We enjoy life as movement, bodily movement. So we have actions through the body in general, but specifically through the legs, through the hands, through the mouth, speaking, eating, singing, etc. Through the genitals is an action. And through the, how to say, the organ of exertion. It's an action, but it is an instinctive action. However, it's an action as well. Sexual is not an instinct. It relates to this instinct of reproduction, but it's different. It's not like the exertion of urine, or the, I don't know how we call them. Okay, all these things that we are not necessary after the digestion of the food. So action, and thinking is also action. Feeling is not an action. Feeling goes with experiencing, but experiencing is also perceiving. So there is perceiving and feeling. We feel our body, we feel our emotions. This is experiencing. We feel the pleasure. Pleasure is related to the vital emotional energy, to the vital, both physical and psychic vital energy, pleasures, sense pleasures. We experience our mental, emotional states, our moods. What is the emotional mood? Emotion is fear, is anger, but mood, we are in a state of pleasure emotionally, a state of positive state, or a state of boredom, or a state of disanimated. We lack enthusiasm. So, but this is like something like mood. But we have also the expression of emotions. Anger manifests in us. Anger, it's different. The mood is something more subtle, we would say, and it lasts more time. And it can be caused by various factors, but in reality it is a part of our programming, emotional programming, because of rajas and tamas that exist in our psyche and the programming. When our mind and psyche in general becomes pure, bad mood does not exist for us. So, doing is something we do using the body, and specifically head, legs, mouth, genitals, and the organs of exertion, how it's called, I'm not sure. And experiencing happens using the 5 sense organs of knowledge, which is the eyes, the ears, the mouth again as taste, and the touch, and the smell. So we have experiences. We perceive sense objects, we have these experiences, these 5 different experiences, and we experience also directly our emotional and mental states. We can experience directly if our mind is confused, or it is agitated, or it is calm, whatever it is, directly. This is the capacity of self-observation. We can observe our mind, body, energy, everything. We call it self-observation because we observe ourselves, but as I already explained, the body and the mind, they are not ourselves. Are organs, instruments, vehicles. However, because we have been using this term, we think that most of people think that we are the body, mind, me entity, so we can speak about self-observation. But in reality, we speak about the observation of thoughts, emotions, bodily sensations, etc. And this experience is also perceiving. Perceiving and experience go together. So there is doing and experiencing. Being, doing, and experiencing. Being also is an experiencing, but a different kind. because we experience our deepest part of our existence, our essential nature, which is beyond all sensory experiences and all psychological experiences. And it's the ultimate subject, we could say. It is the light of consciousness itself. And when the ego subsides totally, then there is this non-dual experience, not before. As long as the sense of I is here, although we may go quite deep in the silence, there is duality. Although we experience the non-dual self, because this essential nature is not dual, is one without a second, there is only one consciousness. That's why we cannot say consciousness in plural, two consciousnesses. We speak always about consciousness. So this consciousness is non-dual in itself, and when it experiences itself, then we speak about this, we are in this non-dual state. But until to reach this non-dual state, we can experience our true self, our bigness, but since this sense of I is there is duality. But for those that have been awakened to the non-dual self, although there is this sense of I-ness, they identify themselves totally with the inner silence and perceive and conceive this sense of I as something different than themselves. So in my case, I experience this sense of I as not myself. Although this sense of I may appear, it's not totally destroyed. Until now, I take the silence as myself, which has not this sense of I. It's something indescribable. That's why it's difficult to realize from one point of view. It's not difficult as well, but from another point of view, it's difficult to realize that we are that, because we seek to find ourselves in this sense of I. We think that it is a superior sense of I. The true self will have this sense of I, which we identify with the physical body, so we are this physical body, and we try to find our true self. We think that our true self is a sense of I, but of a different kind, that has a different taste, but it's something related to this sense of I, which is not the case. It's not the case. That's why, in reality, if we are in a how we say it, doesn't come the word. It comes in Spanish language. Sometimes, because I live in Spain, I confuse Spanish with forest. Forest in Spanish is bosque. So it comes in Spanish language sometimes. So if we are in a forest, in plain nature, then we can have this experience of silence. We experience a very profound and clearly a silence, and it appears that this silence belongs to the forest. In reality, this silence is what we are, but we experience it as an external silence. It's an illusion. And when we find ourselves we are in a sattvic place like nature, like a forest, this sense of I-ness, which strongly appears when we are in a city, and it's identified with the body, it subsides mostly. Probably not fully, totally, but it assumes a very subtle form. So when you are in a plain nature like a forest, mountains, where there is pure nature, pure sattva, and we experience in silence, But we think that the silence belongs to the forest or to the mountains. In reality, it's the silence we are. And in reality, this silence I speak, our true self, it's not inside and outside. This also is a delusion, an illusion. However, we speak always about inner silence because it's quite easier to realize the silence within us. Because the external objects distract our attention and confuse our discernment somehow. So that's why, and also sensory perceptions provoke, cause emotional, mental reactions. That's why. So if we could watch outside without any reaction, with the mind and heart totally calm, then we perceive very easily the silence outwards. In reality, it's not outwards, appears to be outwards. Okay, this is another thing. I don't want to speak more about this. So, being and doing are two aspects of our life. Because of ignorance, we are immersed and totally identified with the doing and the result, with the experiencing, the dual experiencing, doing, dual experiencing, and the results of the doing. So we do something, we eat an ice cream, and we enjoy the result of this doing, the pleasant sensations that relate to this ice cream eating. So we see the forest, or we see the sky, or the sunshine, the sun in the sky, and we enjoy, psychologically, we enjoy somehow this sun, this bright sun in the sky, on the sky. So we drink something, a beer, and we enjoy the sensations. And we experience also a pleasure which is different from the sensation. There is pleasant sensations, but for some, beer is awful, disgust. They have aversion. They don't like beer. You see? So there is no any pleasant sensation related to beer. It is very subjective. It's not a reality. Anyway, we experience the pleasant sensations related to the taste of beer, and we experience a pleasure. The pleasure is an illusion. Of course, pleasant sensations are illusions, but anyway, pleasure is total illusion. It has nothing to do with the experience. Of course, the pleasant sensations have something to do with the experience, although illusory. But somehow it is related with the experience. But pleasure has nothing to do with the experience. In reality, appears to have some relation, and it has an imaginary relation. That's why some people, they drink beer and they have pleasure, and others no. So this is another subject as well. To clarify what is pleasant sensations, what is pleasure, what is the experience, and what is the benefit of this inquiry, to realize that all this pleasure we seek in the outside world is illusory, so that to develop detachment, what we call detachment and dispassion. Otherwise, it's not useful at all. If this exploration, investigation of the sensory experiences does not lead us to develop this dispassion and detachment towards the sensory pleasures, it's meaningless. So there is doing and experiencing as a result of the doing. We're also experiencing the doing itself. And the result, which can be something a pleasant sensations or a joyful emotional state or pleasure. It's different. Pleasure is a different thing. a joyful state, which is sattvic, happiness, some kind of high contentment, satisfaction. There are different reactions as a result of the doing. And normally, through doing, we seek something, to experience something. We do something to experience something, or to achieve something, or to get something. So we work, we have a job it is doing to get money. We need the money to satisfy our needs for shelter and clothes and food, etc. And also to enjoy some pleasures, to satisfy some desires. The problem is that we have lost connection with the bigness, with the innermost self, which is the only source of peace and bliss and plenitude. And we seek the plenitude and the real happiness where it does not exist, in the sensory experiences and in the doing. Doing in itself can give us some kind of joy and satisfaction, content, and feel content, especially creative, or doing something we like, a hobby, playing tennis, football, or whatever, or walking on the mountains, or swimming. Give a sense of joy, happiness, we enjoy it somehow. And for a little gives us this sense of contentment. In reality, it's when we do something with concentration, we experience this state of contentment and enjoyment, but it's silent. It's not exactly this. So the most important thing is not only what we do, but if we do this with full concentration, we are fully engaged in this activity. And when we are fully concentrated in it, that means that there are no reactions, and especially negative reactions. So when the mind is concentrated fully on what we do at hand, we experience peace and contentment and fullness also. To some degree, depends on the concentration and the state of mind and heart, how calm they are. So we can enjoy in the surface self, which is not our self, at mental, emotional, energetic level, some kind of happiness, of contentment, of satisfaction, of joy. But at the same time, we can experience the peace, the profound peace and bliss and plenitude and freedom of our true nature. So doing in reality does not prevent us from experiencing the being, the real being, the bigness we are not opposite. They are not opposed to each other, being and doing. But when we identify completely with the doing, and we have expectation, and there is agitations and fear if we succeed or not, etc., etc., then this prevents us from experiencing the inner peace and bliss we are. So this is the first part of this podcast, being, doing, and experiencing. I hope you have enjoyed this podcast and help you to some degree to clarify all these concepts related to being, doing, and experiencing. I wish you peace, love, and light. I wish you to live consciously moment to moment and practice more consistently and systematically moment to moment, and enjoy the peace and the plenitude and the freedom you are here and now and every here and now. Namaste.